Okay, welcome everybody to the Thursday night chart chat for August 12th. We are getting into some very exciting days of summer. This is, right in the middle, just when everybody's on vacation. And now that the official bull market has begun, just in the last couple of days, we're starting to see big moves, of course, in peak Fintech, PKK. Logic is moving, TBP, RHT, AIML, fans, other stocks in our universe. Really, things are starting to move up pretty nicely right now. So now the first thing actually we're going to talk about is peak Fintech, because this is obviously everybody's watching the stock. It is what did we close at today? We closed at $9.39. And earlier this morning on Twitter, I said that I thought that it would close at $8.88. So I was wrong. It closed much higher. And I think we're going to go significantly higher. That is my opinion on peak. Everything, by the way, everything we say on this program, this is purely opinion. This is not official company information. So take everything you hear with a massive grain of salt. Here's a little disclaimer. So these are clients of Wall Street Reporter. Obviously we have an agenda here. So that consider this as paid content. Every stock we discuss can go to zero. So that's and all that other good stuff. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. And so actually right now on the screen, I have part of our, this is one of the pages of the webinar, which I shared with you a couple of weeks back, which is how to find these, 10 baggers, 100-bagger type stocks. And here is a slide which kind of shows you, this is, what is it? The band that had that song, "It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll." I don't know if it was AC/DC or somebody, I'm sure, knows who the band was. But yeah, it's not easy. You can't just start a band and, all of a sudden you're selling out arena tours. I mean, you gotta, there's highs and lows, there's fights with band members, managers, all sorts of drama happens. Same thing happens with these penny stocks. These micro cap companies, it's not any different than a band. So if you want to, kind of get into a band that is going to go all the way to the top, then you gotta know what you're in for. Everybody thinks, the stock goes from, 35 cents to, or 70 cents. In the case of peak, we introduced this at 70 cents post split. So really 35, 70 cents. It doesn't just go from 70 cents like what you see here to the moon, nice easy flat ride. No, it's like pits and valleys and all sorts of alligators, short sellers, all sorts of crazy action. Like Gilbert knows all about this. He has hung in there, I believe, and that is why he's driving a brand new Jaguar in Montreal. The convertible with, I think this is fully loaded with the blacked out wheels, and he's driving around Montreal picking up young girls. That's what he's doing right now, with all that money he's made from peak Fintech. And this is just one of our many penny stock billionaire success stories. All right, so actually I want to show you this real quick. I want to run through a couple of slides, and then we're going to go into the main event, which is what's the upside for peak from here. And what are going to be the next 10 baggers, 100 baggers? Because, what's in the past, or, obviously peak still has I believe has some upside. I'll explain to you what I see as the potential upside. But, we got to get ready for the next, 20 baggers, 50 baggers, etc. So let me just run through a couple of these slides here. So do you see this over here? How does this move? Okay, why is this slide not moving? Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to go through this real quick. Okay, so Again, so peak fintech. This is not this is not kind of our first rodeo. Not a lucky thing here. We've had other big, huge winners recently in the last 18 months since we created this next super stock philosophy and program. Here is a couple of examples. So you got Cytodyne, that was a 20 bagger in about a year. CloudMD, CBDT, of course, our biggest winner to date, up 50 times from a nickel to $2.50. What an amazing ride that was in just like 4 months. I mean, and there are people who have made millions of dollars with that stock. You got Imagine AR. We got into this very early. It was up 17x. Next Tech, of course, one of our big winners, and that was up 13x in a period of about 9 months or so. We got, of course, some smaller winners. Actually, I shouldn't even have these on this slideshow because these, anything under 10x, I don't really consider a big winner. And this is a little bit. Actually, this is an old. Yeah, these are old slides because this is actually much bigger. Because Logic went to $14 before pulling back. Fans, of course, is a 10 bagger. I'm going to talk about Fans again, a little more on Fans. And of course, you got Peak Fintech joining the Pantheon. Visby, we got ESE, official 12x. And then, of course, this is old. This is kind of an old slide. So, look, we've had stocks that have doubled in a few days. Just when we did our little baby unicorn program last month, we had one of the stocks. I don't want to say it didn't quite double. It was like a 2-cent stock. It went to did it hit 4 cents? I don't know. Pretty close. So I mean, I guess if you're buying, 1 million shares, for 20 grand, you can make real money with that. Okay, so here's where I want to go through this. Just again, before we go any further, because I know we got a lot of new people, and it's good to review. It's also good to review. So, what are we looking for? What does it take for a company like a Peak Fintech? How did Peak Fintech fit into this? Okay, so number 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, going after massive multi-billion-dollar opportunities. Definitely the case with Peak. Absolutely the case with every one of the stocks in our universe right now. Key inflection point. Absolutely, Peak Fintech, when we introduced it, was at that inflection point right when they were starting to generate revenues with their, the fintech platform in China, and all of a sudden you actually saw the revenue start moving. You saw the deals start happening. The timing was perfect. I mean, that's a casebook, almost a textbook, textbook case study. Not 100% perfect because it's not, but it's pretty textbook. Multiple catalysts. That definitely had the catalysts. A CEO that gets it. Hey, listen, any CEO that's willing to come on a program, make the investment in doing this and show up time and again, it shows you that the stock price is important for them, and they understand that the stock price is the key to also raise capital. Peak Fintech just raised $50 million, $50 million. That's a lot of money, massive amount of money for a CSE listed company. I mean, crazy. 5 and 6, what I like. Peak had those, still has those, I should say. Undervalued compared to its peer group. So the multiple at the time we introduced it, the revenue multiple would have been, I don't know, like 1x or whatever. And the peer group trades at 10x plus. So I like. So this is very important. These number 5 and 6, because that gives you the edge. I want to de-risk these things as much as possible. So, I really don't like, these things which have massive risk. And every penny stock has massive risk. So I want to really chop down their risk as much as possible. Number 5 and 6 help to do that. Number 5. So I like something which is undervalued compared to its peer group, almost trading at a private market valuation. And that kind of was where Peak was at the time. And that's where some of our stocks right now are, which is why I think they're bargains. So when you've really de-risked a lot, then all you have is upside. If you take all the risk off the table, it's it's a sure thing, basically. I mean, I don't want to say sure thing because I don't want to get into trouble for, investment advice or anything, which is not what we're doing here. But, I want to take off the risk. One thing I don't have on here is I like a chart which has a nice double bottom, has a nice base. But that's kind of a subjective thing, so I don't have it here. But that's one of the things I definitely look for. And number 6, big trend, something that's part of a big trend, big theme, that helps. Not quite as important as the others, but it definitely helps. So if you add up all 6 of these plus the chart, you're basically getting, I mean, it's like free money. There was a guy who basically was he was like a professional gambler. I think a blackjack player. It was a famous article came out a couple of years ago. He I don't say he broke the bank, but he basically destroyed like a couple of casinos in Atlantic City because the way he was able to play like a perfect game with a little edge. Then he negotiated a deal before he came in that he would get like I don't understand all the methodology, but basically he had the thing set up so it was almost like. I mean, obviously, he had to be 100% perfect, in his card counting, whatever the guy does. But also, he comes in with, a couple $1 million. But I think he took him down for like 10 million or something. So this is very similar. We're looking to do something very similar. We want to have everything stacked in our favor. Again, we're looking for big opportunities, 10x to 100x. I don't want any stock that's a double, triple. That's not exciting. It's a waste of money. It's the risk reward is not worth it. It's got to be at least a 10x to 100x upside, and I want to see a clear runway, an immediate runway where something could be a triple or 5x in a few months. These things where you have these 10 baggers. Sometimes we've had things happen in 4 months. That is very unusual. Like a stock like a CBDT, which is going to be a 50x in 4 months. That's like very rare. I mean, don't get spoiled by those things. The reality is more similar to what you see with Peak Fintech and some of the others, where it takes them, 9 months, 10 months. And if you go back to one of my earlier webinars back in, I think the first time I did one of these, I said, hey, it takes about 9-10 months to produce a 10x win. And Peak Fintech pretty much followed that. So again, we're looking kind of this asymmetric type setups. So I want to have a 10x to 100x where the odds are in your favor, and it's an asymmetrical setup. So the downside is minimal. So like in a case of Peak Fintech, actually I'll give you a better example. Tetra Biopharma right now. So this stock is 35 cents. We introduced it. 33 cents Canadian, 32 cents Canadian. So we introduced this at 17 cents, I believe, back in late February, March. And if you look historically, the lowest that stock has really ever traded was kind of that 15-cent range. It's always kind of had this base in that range. So if you bought that stock, if you even buy it today at 30 cents, 31 cents, your downside is kind of limited to, I think, 15 cents. So you're risking 15 cents. And your upside in the short term, I believe it could be a $253 stock short term. So 20 to 1, you got a 20 to 1. In long term, if you really want to play the long game and really roll the dice, it could be a $20 stock in a year and a half, if everything lines up. So that would be, to make $20, risk 20 cents to make 20, that's $1,000. So that's the type of risk reward situation which I think is juicy, And of course, like the big edge that we have is, we give these companies, we take a great story that's unknown and we give a massive exposure. You want to call it stock promotion, whatever you want to call it. We get them the eyeballs that create those, that gets the thing going. So that is it. Because again, the biggest risk a lot of these companies have is if nobody knows they exist. You can have a great story and nobody knows you exist. The stock's not going to go anywhere, or at least it's not going to go anywhere, within your lifetime. I mean, or 10 years. It could take 10 years for something to move if it doesn't have promotion. And unfortunately, in the microcap space, these companies, they have a very short runway. They got about a year runway to make it, or it's a make or break within a year. So if they don't like pop, if something doesn't get moving, they're going to be gone. They're not going to be able to raise money. They're going to run out of fuel. So again, we're looking for those asymmetric setups. Like I said, with like Tetra Biopharma, perfect example. You're risking 15 cents. Your upside could be minimum $2 to $20. So 20 to 1, 1,000 to 1. And again, very, 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 very important. Okay, so this is the key thing. This is absolutely critical. This is where we've had a couple of companies that screwed up in the last couple of months, where we took on some companies that didn't deliver. Two things that are critical. Number one, we got to have consistent news flow. Because the news flow basically shows that the company is at that inflection point. So we got to have the momentum. We got to have velocity. So things have to happen quickly. They have to be stacked within weeks, months. So that we got to have 3 to 4 news releases. We got to have the CEOs on regularly, because if they don't do it, well, we've seen what happened. We've had a couple of stocks which they were supposed to have the news because they knew what the deal was, and then they didn't deliver on their part. And then, I got egg on my face. It's an embarrassment, and the stocks are duds. So we've had a couple of duds. We're not gonna let that happen again. Here's some stuff here. Okay, so let me go into. You're not here for you're here for the charts. Okay, so let me just go to the share. I'm gonna stop screen. Let me do the share again. And here's the main event. Okay. This guy, Gilbert, 250 grand. So that means this guy must own like 150,000 shares at least, 200,000 shares maybe of Peak, or I guess it's a couple of other stocks. Okay, congratulations. By the way, don't thank me. It's you, because you're the one that's taking the risk. You're the one to get. It's very easy for somebody to watch these videos and do nothing or doubt it, hate whatever it is. So you deserve 1,001% of the credit. Mario comment here. Many of these decline substantially. Hello. Jeez. Of course they decline substantially. But a lot of stocks decline. Listen. Okay. So listen. We don't. Okay. So. 2 things I didn't add, which I've said before. We don't tell you when to get off the bus. Okay, that's your decision. So you can get off the bus anytime you want. You can get off the bus when a stock is a 5x, a 10x. And by the way, I have said in the first live stream I did like this, where I said, look, the reality is most stocks, they go to 10x. To go from 10x to do another 10x, in other words, to go 100x, very, very rare, because the air becomes very, very thin as you get to that top, all the way to Mount Everest. To get it to a 50x, that 50x you saw in CDT, unusual. And I advise, and by the way, this is the only investment advice I would give to anybody here. This is absolutely, I will say this, is any of these stocks, once something starts moving, like, it's already a double, a triple, I highly recommend, and this is the only recommendation I will ever make, is that you pull your principal out. So if you've got 10 grand into a stock and now you're up to 50 grand, it's become 50 grand, pull out your 10 grand. It'll play with it. And by the way, when a stock becomes a 10 bagger, you're getting close to the peak. No pun intended. But anytime a stock becomes a 10x, it's very, by the way, you are actually making a good point here, is once they get to that 10x, a lot of times that's it, because the market front loads, a lot of the good news, it's buy the rumor, sell the news. In the case of CBDT, for example, that thing got way, way ahead of itself once it got to 250. And I think there was a couple of missteps, which I don't want to cover here, which that they made. where that really they could have stabilized it at $1.50. I really believe, and this is really so anyway. So, but also at the same time, the companies you mentioned here, actually ESC, I don't know what we're doing with what, but CBDT, CloudMD, these are, most of our contract with the companies, the promotional it runs for 6 months usually, right? Typically, I don't like to go longer because it kind of gets boring for me. And also after a 10x, you know what? Like a lot of times they don't need us anymore, so we're out of the picture. So CloudMD, that's a stock we haven't worked with since last December. Next Tech, November, Skylight, April, March, I don't know, whatever it was, March, I don't know. I think Skylight, I'd like, because that thing definitely needs some help. But listen, we don't tell you when to get on or when to get off the bus. You're a big boy, and if you need advice, this is not the program for you. We don't do that advice. So that is it. Bottom line is you got to get in early. You got to get in early. Bottom line, you got to get into these things early. Don't jump into a stock once it's up 20x, unless you understand that it's a momentum play. Right now, peak fintech, I'm going to talk about, it's a momentum play. I'll tell you exactly what I believe is the upside from here. I'll talk about it in just a second. You may or may not agree with my opinion. By the way, let me just run a little banner. Right, if you're watching our program for the first time, make sure you click the like button and you subscribe to our channel and also our Telegram channel, the Twitter, the Discord. The links are in below. And of course, nothing here is advice. You need to, Gilbert knows the deal. You got to get in early. So, and here's the problem, Gilbert, here's the problem which you're not explaining though. The problem is early, nobody wants to get in early because the things they're not just doubling, whatever, they're kind of slow. If you look at peak fintech, when we introduced that stock, 35 cents, 70 cents post-split, it was a slow go for a couple of months. This was September. Look at this chart. I mean, the stock even went down a little bit. Same thing happened with Fans Unite. Same thing happened with Same thing happened with Next Tech. I can go down the list. All the big winners started off very slowly. So Logic, listen, the big winners usually have the most haters. RHT, this stock has mega haters. All of a sudden, everybody loves it. Now the stock is moving up, but that's. Believe me, when we introduce the next, we got a couple of real, I think, some monster winners, kind of in the pipeline for September. And I guarantee you, those stocks are going to start off slow, but I think we might have our first 100-bagger introduced in September. I don't know if I don't know if anybody's going to hold it till it's 100x, but it's easily going to be a 10-bagger. But it's a slow start usually. Gilbert up 250 grand in 4 days. There you go. But also, I think you should mention is this is stocks you've already held. So this is not. So you got in early. It's the momentum that's carrying them up. So that's the payoff. We're going to be talking about those in just a second. PKK, that's right. So they're not on NASDAQ yet. So the question is, what is going to happen when they are on NASDAQ? So that has been a little bit tricky for some of the stocks we've had. I mean, everybody expects them to, quadruple right away. And it's not quite like that. It's almost like, it's almost like somebody going from a big fish in a small pond to all of a sudden you're a tiny fish in a massive pond. It's like, you were the star athlete, in some, little town, football player in a little town, and then you're trying to join the NFL, and all of a sudden now you're or whatever sport you want. Now all of a sudden, these are the absolutely best people in the world you're up against. So then you got to step up the game. There's a different challenge. So it's an interesting thing. So the Nasdaq thing is we'll talk about the Nasdaq. Gilbert, I never recommended anything. So whatever you bought it on your own, 43 cents. But that was a good time to get in. Exactly, anything can go to zero. So VST. Oh, by the way, we've had a bunch of companies dropped off our program. Contracts expiring for whatever reason. Maybe they don't want to renew. We don't, whatever. So VST is one of them. NVG. Who else do we have dropped? So we have VST. If you go to our Discord channel and you see what is it? It'll show discussion boards current. So it'll show you all the current clients we have actually. Because we don't always announce like, oh, we're we're no longer with. It's not really efficient, we don't, because it may be seen as in bad taste. I don't want people to get the wrong impression. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the company or whatever. It just, it may not be a fit. They may not need our, like Skylight, from what I understand, their board, the chairman, they want to be a NASDAQ thing. They don't want to be seen as, promotional. I respect it. They're trying to do it institutionally. So that's the deal there. And there's always different situations. So let's see. Great question. We're going to talk about that in just a second. PKK to 1,000. I don't know about 1,000. Listen, don't be that greedy. Don't be greedy. Okay, so let's talk about. Should we talk about Peak Fintech first, or should we talk about? Okay, let me go back to Peak Fintech. Let me go back to Peak, and I'll tell you where I think this is going to go. There's some very interesting things happening with Peak. By the way, I should say I do want to take credit for one little thing here, and that is, do you remember? And again, this is very frustrating. How many times during this period of like between February and May, 2 months, 3 months, I was saying when it was in that $3 range, well, now it's technically $6. When it was in that $3 range, I was saying it looks like it's breaking out, Peak Fintech ready to break out. And it was every time it was a fake out. 3 months, massive frustration. And I said, hey, when this thing breaks out, it's going to go to like, $10, which would have been a 3x from that. And here you go. We're seeing Peak Fintech breaking out of that historical ceiling. So where do I think Peak Fintech is going to go? Let me go back to that in just a second. Let me go through a couple of other stocks first. I want to give you a little tease. Okay, so TBP, speaking of next 10 baggers and 100 baggers, again, stock we introduced back in, March. It was March, right? Yeah, March, 15, 17 cents or so. Hit a high of 50 something cents pretty quickly. But if you look at the chart, it didn't take off right away. It was about a month before the thing started moving. So you could have gotten into that stock, and then made 4x. But that is just the beginning. To me, this thing looks like it's about to explode. If you look at this, I see, again, and this is very subjective. You talk about charts. If you want to see fundamentals, we have a website called Starwood Research. You can read a fundamental research report on it. Here we're going to talk about the charts. And that the fundamentals explain why this can be $20. From a chart perspective, I see a massive rounding double bottom. And, this is right now just broke out of this 50-period moving average, 50-day moving average. It's really kind of gearing up. You can see kind of what's happening. I mean, it's like coiling up. And I think we're going to see 40 cents very quickly. We're going to maybe build a base, 45 to 55 cents. And then this thing is going to go to, $1.25, 250 at some point the next couple of months. That's kind of the way I see TBP. I might be reading too much into the chart. I don't know, but that is what I think. Actually, let me look at the TBPMF because this is not giving the full. Yeah, this is a better chart. Yeah, so this is the American chart, so it's a little okay. Yeah, man, this thing really reminds me exactly of like a CBDT. Nobody believed CBDT when we introduced CBDT at a nickel. It sat there for a month. I mean, okay, it might have gone up to 8 cents. People were like, thought it was going to go back to zero. You know, there's a lot of haters. And sure enough, the thing went to 250. So, okay, so the next stock, which I think are ready to explode, I'm going to give them to you right now. Tetra Biopharma, definitely one of them. I see that as a 10 bagger. Beautiful chart setup. You have a great risk reward ratio. Again, not my, this is not advice at all. I'm just telling you kind of what I see in the chart. Your downside is limited to about 15 cents. So you're risking 15 cents to make possibly 250. 15 cents, $2. Good risk reward ratio, right? That's what I'm thinking. Logic. Here is another stock which I think could be a massive winner. Look at this chart, even more bigly than the TBP chart. Massive double bottom, massive base. It's pivoting off the base. It just broke out of that 50-day moving average. And look what happens every time it's done it at kind of at these levels. You saw big moves. The last time it broke out, it went from $250 to $14, almost a 7x. I think we're going to see $14 on the stock very quickly. Again, if you want to fundamentals, there's a couple of research reports out there, including starwoodresearch.com, which I think is the best one. I'm a little bit biased. Of course, Zacks has a report. There's a couple of other reports explaining the fundamentals. Again, this one has a couple of things going for it. It is undervalued compared to its peer group, which I think is one of the big catalysts. It's trading at 2x revenues. Some of their peers are trading at 25x. So to me, that implies that when this thing catches up to the peer group value, you get a 10x just from that. Plus, they're going to be growing their revenues. They're talking about doing some acquisitions. They might be doing 100 million run rate in a year. I mean, they're already doing 40 million, roughly 38 million. So this is not like some guy saying, yeah, we got the stuff we're looking at. No, this is a real company. They got 38 million in revenues. This is the real deal. They got real people involved. I would say fundamentally, I think this is actually one of the strongest companies in our universe right now. And it's shocking that this thing people have not caught on to it. I don't know why. Sometimes people are very slow. I don't know. Maybe this, I bet the people who are not buying peak right now, or excuse me, who are not buying Logic, they're going to be buying peak at $16 or whatever, or they'll be buying Logic at $14. No, this is the time to get in, because you don't want to be like Mario coming back and saying, hey, these things all went down, right? Oh, actually, who is it coming? I'm double on peak. Do I de-risk? But yeah, you don't want to. You want to get in early. This is the time. If you anybody that wants to get in early, I mean, I don't see any better play right now, to be honest. This is one of our bottom plays. Wow, Gilbert. This guy got in at 8 cents, sold at 65 cents. I guess on the first run to 65. I don't blame you, by the way, because that's a good, but yeah, the 250 was just kind of, the $2 thing was silly, but they really should have taken advantage of it to raise some capital. They could have raised a ton of cash at that point and done some real deals. Logic, LGIQ. I believe this is going to be our next 10 bagger. Well, 10 bagger, at least $20. At least $20. Could go higher. These things always go a little bit crazy. Okay, so we got logic out of the way. I showed you TBP. That's easily a 10 bagger, possibly a 100 bagger. RHT. Here is another one that is already starting to move with massive momentum. Beautiful chart pattern. Beautiful. You see a pennant breakout here. This is incredible, incredible. It doesn't get more bullish than this. Now, you see this is it's not, the stock is not at a base. It's not a double bottom. So it's kind of a, people don't realize it. And this has a lot of haters. So now this is a stock we introduced at, I think, 75 or 80 cents back in March, February time. It ran up a little bit. Then you had, the big market sell-off. So listen, we've had a rough couple of months. We've had 5 months between Valentine's Day and, I don't know, a week ago. What is that? That's 6 months almost. It's been a rough 6 months. So anybody who, look at this, the viewership, I know it's the summer, but definitely our viewership is down by half. I mean, you can see the number of people watching it. It's about half or a third, maybe even a quarter. It's 25% of what it was in the peak of February. And by the way, that's when you find the best opportunities, when nobody's watching. These last weeks of the summer, this is when you get the bargains, seasonal bargains. My peak shares, 2 to 10 years. Wow. Okay, that's by the way, I don't recommend any of these stocks as like, put them away, and these are speculative. All these stocks are speculative. I don't know, man. I mean, anybody who wants to put away a stock like that, these things are all speculative. Okay. Thank you. Howdy. Doc. So that was last summer, a year. It's our 1 year anniversary. Howdy. So so hopefully you're gonna have some presence with some of these next big winners. So RHT looks amazing. The fundamentals now, we've had the CEO on, and she kind of explained to you the path. This could be an easy $5 stock. I mean, there's a clear path to get there. The company has, what is it, a couple $100 million already in revenue in the pipeline once they onboard these people. So yeah, and look at this massive long double bottom base. I think this is going to be a $250 easy, and then $5 on this stock. And this thing is exploding. So anybody that likes momentum, this is a good stock to take a look at. Let me cover another one which has not been getting a lot of attention. AIML. Once this thing breaks out of this moving average here, you're gonna, I think, see some fireworks. I think this could be a $250 stock, $3 stock before it's done. Now we introduced it, I think, around 70 cents, I think it was. So basically doubled in the first month, but then, well, actually not in the first month, the first week it doubled. And it took a while, then kind of lost momentum. They stopped putting out news. The market was rough. So yeah, they had a bit of a rough start. And that's the opportunity. I think you're starting to see the base here. You're going to see, I believe, my opinion is you're going to see 250 on the stock. This is a good time to get in. Not that I'm giving advice or anything. I'm just saying, based on the chart. Let's look at Fans Unite. Fans. Okay, so here's another one of our long time. So this is a stock we introduced last. Oh my God, how long has it been? We gotta throw these guys out of the nest already. Come on, we gotta throw these guys out. This thing has got to go to $4, and then we're on to the next thing. So these guys need to get cranking here. I mean, I don't want to be promoting a stock for a year. To be honest with you, I like to move on to new things, but I do want to see this thing become at least a $3 stock. So look, here's what happened. So we introduced this last year in the summer. It was pretty dead. It took about 3 months for this thing to get some legs, and then all of a sudden, people started to understand what they do. The problem is this, really, with a lot of these stocks, it's hard for investors to really understand what these guys are doing. I mean, they understand the basics of the business, but like some of the nuances, the business model, a lot of people just don't pay attention, especially if something you got to really roll up your sleeves a little bit to understand it. Like in the case of like Logic, they have 2 separate businesses. They have a fintech business in Indonesia. They have the digital marketing, ad tech, market tech business in the US. It takes a little, you got to understand it. So something is happening with, okay, so this thing was ready to blow out again in June before they did the financing. And they've been very quiet. Like I've actually reached out to the company in the last few weeks, say, hey, we got to do an update. I haven't heard back from them, which is unusual. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what. Maybe. What if they're, look, Score Group was just bought out. What if somebody buys Fans? I mean, I think Fans could be a good buyout opportunity for one of these players. Take a look at Fubo, which was one of our former Next super stocks. We introduced Fubo March 2010, March 2020, excuse me, March 2020. Stock was $9. Nobody cared. It was known as Face Bank Group then. Hit a high of $60. New York Stock Exchange company now. Sports betting platform built into. I think Fans could be bought out. Just like Score Group was bought out. I don't know. What is Score? What do they have at 20 minutes? Nothing. They don't have anything that impressive. And Score was once a crappy, $2 stock. When I say crappy, in the scheme of things, a penny stock, like it was even less. So, yeah, I mean, look, if Score could get big numbers, I think Fans could get some big numbers. And look, we've had success in this area. Fubo, former client. Yeah, Fubo. I think, by the way, I think Fubo is going to be a $100 stock. Yeah, so Fans, I think, could be a massive winner. I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard from them. So again, when I say buyout, it's my speculation. Nothing. This is all right. Okay, so Score Group. You're talking about Score that got bought for in-house tech. Okay. Guess what Fans has? They have very valuable in-house tech. I think DraftKings bought up. So I think. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I think Fans doesn't have a partnership with Penn, but yeah, they could be attractive for somebody. They could be very attractive. So let's see what happens. Okay, so yeah, I think so. I don't know, man. I got a feeling. I got like a weird vibe that this thing might be bought out, like for crazy money. I just have a weird feeling. And again, I haven't heard anything from these guys. So it's weird. Like if I, and usually they're very responsive. So if I reached out a couple of times and I haven't heard back, and they're still, they're paying for the service, right? So maybe, I don't think they're on vacation. Maybe I'm speculating. This is speculation. This is not. I don't want anybody to read it. And this is based just on what you see happening with Score. So if Score got that big buyout, I think the same thing can happen with Fans. And Fans, my target on Fans right now, it was originally 250. Did we hit 250? Almost. So it was a 10x. And I think now, because they have this bigger base, I think you could see a 450 number on this thing. So my target on Fans right now is $4.50. So that is the deal. Okay, so I think we've covered it. Oh, okay, let's here for the main event. Peak Fintech. Now that I gave you kind of stuff which has 10-bagger upside, like Logic 10-bagger upside, Tetra Biopharma 10-bagger upside, RHT, at least a 5x from here, AIML a 5x from here, Fans a 5x plus from here. Okay, you got that? So let's go to the main event. The main event. Okay, so Peak Fintech. Based purely on the chart, you get this breakout. This is the long anticipated break. I'm going to draw this for you in case anybody doesn't understand what the hell I'm talking about. I drew this line so many times in the past. I'm like sick of it. This was basically your resistance line. And look, you can see what happened, right? So I would say, based on this kind of action, trying to articulate this. It's kind of like a coil. I'm sure there's some sort of, anybody who studied physics or something knows how to put this into plain English. But say this thing has a shot at, I got a couple targets: $14, $18, $22. So I can see Peak Fintech going to $14, which would be really $7 based on where it was, before the split, which is really nothing. So $14 actually is pretty cheap. $18 would basically be a $9 before the split. So I think $18. But then I think what can happen very, very easily is, look, these things always overshoot or undershoot. They either go way parabolic or they, whatever. So this thing is going parabolic. What you see happening with Peak Fintech is it is going parabolic. So this is a very, very fun ride. The question is, can a stock maintain this rate of straight up acceleration? It's kind of like a thing of physics, right? You can't just go straight up unless you have enough fuel to go, So I would say this, to me, reminds me a little bit of CBDT. So when CBDT broke out of that 60-cent range, let me pull up CBDT. I wish I could overlay the chart. I don't know if you can. I think you can. Can you do a chart overlay here? Oh, I think you can. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. It's not quite working. It's not, okay. Actually, no, okay, but you can kind of see it. Okay, so it's pretty interesting, right? So look, okay, so if you see the blue line, that was CBDT, right? And what was the price? I think it was 6. Let me see, how do I do this? The comparison line. Okay. I don't know. Let me just do the regular CBD thing here. Okay. So so you had something very similar. You had this base, not base, you had this thing happening, and I talked about it before. Hey, it's going to be breaking out, and then it actually did break out, 35 cents, and it went. So basically, it went. Oh my God! It basically went almost like 8x the previous value, 6x previous value, right? So if it went 6x previous value, and how do I, what, by that I mean, it was 32 cents and it went 6 times that. So you look at peak, so 6x this would be $30 if it had that same rate of acceleration. Can it do it? Can Peak Fintech be a $30 stock? Oh shit, Gilbert was ahead of me on this. $35. Can it be 35? If it gets that same rate of acceleration, which is very, very rare. So I don't know, man. I would say a safer bet is $24. I think $24 is kind of the more natural parabolic move. So I think we could see $24 quickly. I mean, it's you see what's happening. It's very, very similar. It'd be very interesting. So projections, whatever, I mean, I don't really care fundamentally. I mean, companies project whatever they want. I mean, I know they're doing real revenues. I mean, but I don't know, man. I'm just looking at the chart. I mean, this thing is going parabolic. So I think it could go to $24. I'm not advising anybody. I'm not giving any type of advice here at all. I'm just saying this is going to be a fun ride right now. Okay, there's another $35. So yeah, this could be interesting. It just could be interesting. I would say this: the only thing I would advise is, if you have a profit, pull out some principal. You want to pull out some. Money, so that way you could let it ride. You're playing with the bank's money, as I would say. So yeah, I think. Listen. Let's just wait to see what happens. I am very confident that this is going to go to $14. I'm like 90% sure at this point it's going to go to $14. Not that means anything, but 1822. I think those are good possibilities based on what they have. I think they could support it. Can they go to $30? The other stuff, I have no idea, because that's already lucky. That would be based on, but look, we've seen crazy things happen before. Things either are very overvalued or undervalued. This is part of what makes this fun. This is all part of the fun. So Todd sees a buyout for fans. Why do you see a buyout? Do you have any reason? Do you have give us some fundamentals? Because I'm speculating. So what is your reason? Why do you think fans is going to get bought out, and at what price? November 11th. What's November 11th? By the way, I should say, Peak Fintech. They're actually no longer a Wall Street Reporter client. I should say that, because their thing really expired at a months back, back in April or May, and like at this point, they don't really they don't need our services, to be honest. This stock has taken on a life of its own, so they really don't, they don't really, they don't really need us. And it kind of like, it's, yeah. So we like to get in early and then let the market move by itself. So that being said, I still think it's going to go to $24 with or without us. So Johnson is not going to be back on our platform, but he doesn't need us at this point. I think, heck, he could be on CNBC. Canadian markets closed single. Yeah, no, I think these holidays. No, I mean these stocks don't trade based on that. Interesting. Well, here's the thing. I do have to say. Here's the thing. Johnson has pretty much delivered everything the guy said. I mean, it's weird. It's like, a lot of times these CEOs don't. He's delivered. He's actually over delivered. Yeah, so it's interesting. Can they be listed on the Hong Kong exchange? That would be interesting. I don't know if that's going to do anything for the stock. Maybe not, because I think, look, once you go on these bigger exchanges, I don't think it's going to be a big impact. I think right now there's enough. I mean, there is enough action for peak fintech right now. It doesn't need to be any. It could be just in the OTC and in Canada, right? I mean, actually, I haven't even looked at PKK. Yeah, I mean, 500,000 shares. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's plenty of action for peak in just where it is right now. I don't think any exchange uplisting. This guy's funny. I don't know. Well, officially 6 months from when they started. So they started in March. It's coming up. I don't know. Doesn't mean, I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't mean anything. But yeah, it is coming up. So we have, and you never know. Sometimes companies, they may or may not renew. I have no idea. I would like TVP. I'd like them to renew because I think we're still in the early stages. So I think that one is going to do very well. But I think, yeah, the idea also is by the time we get into September, we're pretty much going to be trimmed down to like really some good companies. Like they're all going to be performing. I think by then we'll get bets. We haven't talked about bets in quite a while. That stock's been halted, pending the merger with the Indian gaming company, which could be, I think, very good news because by the time it comes back, it'll be huge. So I think September is going to be very interesting. We're going to have a very tight kind of little repertoire, little group. Our little group will be probably under maybe 10 companies. We're going to be adding probably one or two in September, which are going to be, I think, some massive winners. I think we had a little bit too many, in March. We took on a couple of companies. It was the underwriting standards got a little bit sloppy. The market was crazy and, whatever. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, that said, bottom line, peak fintech looking amazing. We might see a bit of a pullback. Actually, let me look at the short-term chart. I really don't think so. I mean, no. Oh my God, look at this thing. It's like a monster. Yeah, I mean, this thing just wants to go higher. We might see, we might see $10, $11 next few days, a little bit of consolidation. I think, you might get some people shaking out in that kind of $10, $11 range. They're going to get like, what is it called? A fear of vertigo. And then you're going to have massive FOMO kicking in, and it's going to go to like $14, maybe even $18. I mean, this thing is just going to go, I think this thing can go bananas. I think it can go absolutely bananas. So just, use your common sense. All right, pull out your principal, let the rest ride, pull, and then blow that out when you feel, hey, it might go to $50. I have no idea. But I'm just saying my target based on that chart is $18, $22 range. Unless who knows? You never know anything with these companies. This could be the first 100-bagger. It could be, if this goes to $35, it could be a 100-bagger. So we'll see. All right. With that said, thank you everybody for joining. We'll see you on the next live stream.